notre objectif principal. Est-ce qu'il y a
The idea of scene is an interesting one because for decades and decades people have talked about scenes in relationship to music. The Williamsburg scene, the glitch scene, the doom metal scene. What does it mean? Does it mean a genre of music? Does it mean a place where music happens? Does it mean a kind of loose group of people who like lots of different kind of music? Is it the same as a community? Is it the same as a kind of school or movement? Scene is a word that is one of the most slippery of all words we use to talk about music, and yet it never goes away because there is a kind of usefulness, maybe because so much of how we think about music and other things is slippery. There are scenes around labels. There are scenes around clubs. There are scenes around bands. There are scenes that take the name of their city or of their neighborhood or of the musical genre. Scenes are kind of invisible. You can't say, oh, look over there, there's the, whatchamacallit scene. There's the Casa scene. Well, you could point to Casa, I guess, and say that. But then is that a scene? Or does Casa contain a number of overlapping scenes? Scenes are mostly invisible, but what interests me, and I think interests some of you, I know Tina, is what are their kind of material underpinnings? What kind of spaces do you need to have a scene? Is it true, as the New York Times said in the late 90s, that you could explain all of Montreal music by the size of the apartments, which encourage people to make big music in groups with lots of people? Is it true, as some people said, that the size of lofts in New York in the 1940s and 50s allowed for huge paintings and therefore gave us abstract expressionism as a style of visual art? We can talk about the spatial underpinnings, the spatial infrastructures, if you like, of scenes. There's also obviously an event infrastructure to scenes. Scenes can just keep bubbling along, but they have to manifest themselves now and then in events. In festivals, that's sort of the common one these days, manifest themselves in ongoing kinds of gigs and events. There's the economic infrastructure of scenes. How do people in a scene make their living? And do they make their living in ways that have to do with the scene, or do they have to step outside the scene to make their living? How do money and other resources flow through a scene? So these are some of the issues we might want to discuss today, but I thought what I would do is ask each of the three presenters first to say a little bit about what they do, and maybe even to reflect a little bit on the idea of scene, and then I'll come back and maybe ask some more specific questions and push things along, and at a certain point open it up to you. So maybe